Yes, very good morning to Undal. Pratik, Pratik, your team is ready. Pratik Mahant, Praveen Roy, Prithvi Rahul.
Yes, sir. Like our team is ready, sir. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Therefore, I request the ninth batch to continue with the session. I request the ninth batch to handle the title called Modular Concepts. The session is open to you all. Go ahead with your content. Yes, start your presentation. Start your presentation. Rahul?
Yes. Yes, sir. Like Pratik will be starting with the introduction of the concept. He'll join, sir.
Yes.
He has joined. He's sharing the screen, sir. 1 second.
Yes, yes, yes. In the meantime, if time permits, the left out students can also be ready with the content. If the ninth batch is completed the session, then we request the other people to fill up the session. The second batch, in the 1 to 3rd batch, there are 3 to 4 people. 1, 2, 3 people has to present. Number 21, number 23, and 30. And concerning the 4th batch is everyone is completed. And concerning the 4th and 7th batch alone. The 7th batch 65, 66. Yes, one and 73 has to present. Yes, if time permits, be ready. You can also share your contents. Yes, Rahul, you can start your presentation off. Rahul?
Yes, sir. Like the introduction part will be taken by Pratik, sir. Like, he'll be 1 second, sir.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Pratik.
Sorry, sir. Actually, this my headphones were not working. That's why.
Yes, yes. Pratik, yes, Pratik. I think it is populating. Yes, modular concept. Yes. Oh, it went.
Pratik, hello.
हाँ भाई, हाँ 2 मिनट. Sir, so you all can see my screen, right?
Yes, Pratik.
Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Pratik, and today me and my friends would be explaining you about modular concept. So this is a new term for me, specifically for me, I guess. So I learned basics of this thing through Googling and through this course, which sir taught us. So yeah, before directly diving to the PPT, I would like you all to think about this word modular concept for a second.
Yes, give FA and continue your presentation. Slideshow.
Yes, sir, sorry.
Give slideshow and continue your presentation.
Okay, sir. Fine, sir. Okay. So what is modular concepts? So as we all know, robots were invented with the vision of helping humans to do their tasks, especially the 4D, the dirty, dangerous, difficult, and dull tasks more comfortably. But as the time developed and as the technologies developed, we all came to know that robots have application in different fields, which we didn't even imagine while we developed them for the first time. And one such concept is modular concept, which was first the concept of morphologically variable robots, which was firstly introduced by Mr. Toshio with the sir, I couldn't see my ear time. Okay, fine, no problem. With the name of Seabot. So what is model concepts? I would be explaining you the basics of modular concepts through this diagram. You can see this picture, right? If you see this picture in a clockwise direction from starting from this one, the first one, you can see that this robo is making transforming itself into a shape of chair, right? So this is modular concept basically. Modular robotics are robot designs with parts that can be reconfigured to assume different shapes and functions. And talking precisely, you can see the small ball kind of stuff, right? Which are actually making this robot. These are called modules. These are the parts which reconfigure themselves to take different shape and perform different tasks. So this was the basic concept of modular robots and the different types of robot. Uh, they have if we talk too technologically, then there are different types of robot, but we can broadly classify them in terms of metamorphic, self-replicating, and nested configuration. A metamorphic robot is a system that consists of multiple identical robots, cells in underlying lattice structure, which can be disconnect, reconnect with adjacent neighbors, and slide power or otherwise locomote to neighboring lattice point, following prescribed rules of the chain in the global. The first diagram, the first picture which you saw in the previous, which you saw in the previous slide, was actually a metamorphic robot. And the second one is the self-replicating robot. A physical system is a self-replicating if it can construct or detach functional copy or of itself. There's one more example. There's one robot developed by MIT scholars actually, which was a kind of self-replicating robots, wherein which was a part which parts consisted of different cubicles which realigned themselves and restructured themselves to perform different tasks, which could be example of self-replicating robot. And the third one would be nested configuration. A nested configuration is an emerging research area in modular robotics. This design concept utilizes individual robot modules with distinctive configurational characteristics. These were the basics types, and all the nitty gritty and details about these classification would be covered in the further slides by my friend. Talking about the application of modular concepts, though these robots have different applications in our day-to-day life too, but due to the high, what do we call it? High manufacturing costs or high development costs per se, these are specifically used in few areas as of now. The first one is space exploration, which is pretty much self-explanatory. And the second one is bucket to stuff. The bucket to stuff is actually a futuristic idea wherein, as you can see the picture, the box kind of structure which a person can keep them in a garage and ask for the same whenever he requires help of these structures, and ask them to form a specific shape or form a specific structure to help him perform certain day-to-day tasks. This is something which we will be seeing in coming future, not currently, where the research has been going on the same. Yeah, So this was all about for my PPT, my introduction part. My part was introducing you all to the basic concepts of modular robots and stuff. In the coming PPTs, my friends would be explaining you about the technological development, the what do you call it, algorithmic part of the same. So now Rakshika would be presenting the further coming slides.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, Rakshika.
Okay, so could you change this slide? Yeah. So I'm Rakshika and I'll be talking about the classification based on the arrangement of basic units and about the modular soft robots, MSR, and the types of MSR, and the modular units and the advantages and disadvantages of this. Next slide.
Wait, Rakshika, I don't know why it's stuck.
Oh, it's okay. Okay. So we learned that modular robots are robots composed of multiple units called modules. Each module is an independent robot with its own control electronics, actuators, sensors, communications, and power. These modules can change their position and configuration in order to adapt to the requirements of the situation, making modular robots suitable for tasks that involve unknown or unstructured terrains in which a robot cannot be designed specifically for that use. Some examples of these applications are space exploration, battlefield reconnaissance, tending to victims among the debris in natural catastrophes, and other similar tasks involving complicated terrain require a high risk. The classification by arrangement of the basic unit goes like lattice type, chain type, and hybrid type. I can't see the screen. Is the screen visible or is it just me? Hello?
Rakshika, you have the PPT, right?
Yeah.
The whole PPT, right? The whole compiled one.
Once again, I don't know, but the whole one. I have my particular slide.
Okay, Pratik, I will
Rahul.
share. I will share this screen.
Yeah, you
Wait
can
one
share. Because it's not a problem.
I'll continue while you share the screen. So the three types. So like one of the common ways of classifying the different types of modular robots and their configuration is to base it on the arrangement of their basic units, and the three types as we saw was lattice type, chain type, and hybrid type. In the lattice type, the modules are arranged in some regular pattern along 3D space resembling atoms in crystals, and their configurations are usually described using crystallographic displacement groups. These kinds of lattice structures are computationally simpler to describe, and their reconfiguration planning can be scaled easier to more complex systems. Locomotion in this kind of modular robots is achieved by reconfiguration, changing the position of individual modules in that lattice in such a way that the global position of the modular robot is displaced towards the goal position. Some of the examples are shown in the slide, and the picture of these robots is shown in the next slide. And the next type is chain type. Modules are connected forming strings or trees, allowing these kinds of robots to reach any point of space in this chain type. In contrast to this versatility, these modular robots usually need a chain of several modules to reach an arbitrary point, making reconfiguration more complex, and they are more computationally difficult to represent and analyze. Since reconfiguration is more complex in chain-type modular robots, they usually achieve locomotion by means of their own bodies or limbs made of modules, performing oscillating patterns with their joints in order to progress towards the goal. Some of the examples are shown on the slide, and the picture of these robots are also shown. I think the slide is stuck. Yeah. And the third type is the hybrid type. This is the last category of modular robots according to the arrangement of their basic unit. These modules have characteristics of both lattice type and chain type, allowing them to perform as any of them when required. For reconfiguration, the robot behaves as a lattice type modular robot since it is easier to model and calculate the steps required for reconfiguration in this type of modules. Whereas locomotion is achieved as a chain type modular robot. obtaining higher speeds this way. And some of the examples are shown, and the picture is also shown on the next slide. And next, we'll move on to modular soft robots. In contrast to conventional robots composed of rigid materials, soft robots are made from soft materials that offer remarkable advantages like achieving various adaptive locomotion, manipulating delicate objects, providing safe human-robot interaction, and adapting to confined environments due to their excellent compliance and adaptability. Unlike fixed morphology soft robots, modularization of soft robots is a low-cost and rapid strategy that enables them to adapt to changing task and environment by rearranging the connectivity of module robots and attain complex functionality such as self-assembly, self-repair, or self-replication. Although MSRs exhibit many advantages, they are still in the nascent stage with plenty of challenges. First, the materials, fabrication, and then actuation, and then sensor and control of various modular units in the MSRs are introduced. Then some main connection methods between the modular units are summarized. That we'll see later, but before that we'll talk about this MSRs categorization. The MSRs are categorized as 3 types based on their functionality and automaticity. These are assembled soft robots, reconfigurable soft robots, and self-reconfigurable soft robots. The assembled soft robots. In this type of robots, the arrangement and connection of module units are fixed. So the design and fabrication of module units are only for a single function or scene, not for the reconfiguration of multifunctional robots. Modularity is mainly convenient for the assembly, storage, and transportation of soft robots, as well as the rapid replacement of the failed or damaged modular units. The assembled soft robots often appear in the form of manipulators or graspers. A soft robotic manipulator could be installed as an independent soft machine or a part of the existing robotic systems, which is composed of bending, rotating, and grabbing module units. The image should be shown in the slide, but I guess okay, we'll come back to that later maybe. The next, should I try presenting?
One second.
Yeah, cool.
Now it's visible. Hello.
Yeah, we can't, like, you didn't open the slide yet, right?
No, I opened it
Oh. You can only see the downloads tab mostly. Wait, I'll try presenting. Can you all see the screen? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, Rakshika.
So the assembled soft robots, this is the picture and the description is shown here. And the next type is reconfigurable soft robots. These are different from the monofunctional assembled soft robots in the sense that the reconfigurable soft robots have multiple arrangements and thus different functionalities can be achieved by different arrangements of these modular units. The modular units of the reconfigurable soft robots are not only designed for the assembly of a single soft robot or the quick replacement of damaged modular robots, but also for the realization of the versatility. And you can see the image here, and the description is not given. It basically goes like this. The image A is showing a soft snake-like robot, and 2 soft actuators are constructed by combining the basic modules in the various arrangements. And in image B, a gripper robot and a crawler robot are assembled by different modular units. And C, a set of soft modular robots are presented via various configuration of homogeneous models. And in D, a gripper, bottle opener, rotatable crawling robot, and pipe climbing robot are configured by modular units. And the last E, deployable structures and a mobile robot assembled by quadrilateral modular units. the third type is self-reconfigurable soft robots. In this type, these robots can autonomously transform their morphologies to cope up with the changeable environments or tasks and can also replace the damaged modular units by themselves. And as shown in the figure, the automatic connection process of two MSRs was conducted with two 3x3 array robots crawled towards and formed a new 3x6 array. And this new 3x6 array robot was still capable of moving in 3 degrees of freedom. In addition, a teleoperator was used to control the disassembly of soft robots, where a leg of the crawled robot was automatically unloaded via the inflation of the bladder. However, these aforementioned MSRs are only realized through the self-reconfiguration process, and the self-reconfigurable soft robots are still at their infant stage of research. Currently, there is no strong self-reconfigurable soft robots because of some challenging issues that remains to be solved, such as the self-awareness, intercommunication between modular units, assembly and disassembly of modular units. Now we have come to modular units. These modular units are the basic and core of MSRs. The material fabrication, actuation, sensor and control, and connection mechanisms of modular units have to be decided according to their functions. The materials fabrication. Recent advances in soft materials provide a good basic condition for the advancement of MSRs compared with rigid.
Try to converge with your content, Rakshika.
Sir? Like,
Try to converge with your contents.
oh, the slides and the what I'm speaking are not aligning, or what?
No, it is already 11:52. Only 2 persons are.
Oh, you're asking me to speed up and
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So the ones that are already described, I don't need to describe it again, right? I'll just go very fast. So in general, the commonly used the soft robots made from soft materials exhibit outstanding adaptability and compliance, enabling them to adapt to environment by changing themselves. And soft materials or the materials are Young's modulus in the order of as shown in the figure. And in general, the commonly used soft materials can be divided into 2 types: elastomer materials and smart materials. And this is the graph. And many innovative fabrication methods, including soft lithography, lost wax casting, 3D printing, etc., have been developed and used to fabricate soft modular units. And the image is shown here. And the next we have come to actuation process. And soft robotics is a branch of robotics featured by the innovative actuation methods, and the development of actuation methods will greatly promote the advancement of soft robotics. These are different from the rigid actuation counterparts, example impellers, bearings, electrical motors, etc., of conventional rigid robots that are usually bulky and produce noise. The actuation counterparts of soft robots are always flexible, quiet, and stretchable. In terms, there are many actuation methods used in soft robots, which are mainly classified based on physical signals, such as electrical, thermal, pressure, light, combustion, etc. And in terms of MSR, the pneumatic actuation and SMA actuation are 2 main actuation methods widely adopted by scientists and engineers due to the widespread use of silicon robots. And the 4 types of actuations are shown below: bending, extension, shrinking, and twisting. And next, sensor and control. To make soft module units achieve intelligent perception, the sensors are necessary to be integrated with module units. The deformable feature of module units leads to high demands for the sensors. Basically, this is whatever I have to explain is shown in the slide. So, sir, can I skip through this part because everything is shown in the.
Yes.
And I'll be sharing the PPT. So, and this is there, and then the connection mechanisms. These are remarkable features of modular robots is the reversible connection of modular units. It facilitates the replaceability of modular units and morphology change of robots. And in modular rigid robots, the connection mechanisms can be broadly classified into 2 main categories based on the imposed force: mechanical connection and magnetic connection. And the last, we are come to the advantages and disadvantages. Three advantages. These are good adaptability, high robustness, and low cost. good adaptability in the sense modular self-reconfigurable robots offer few potential advantages over conventional robots. Given their self-reconfigurable nature, the modular robots are more versatile than their conventional counterparts. They can reconfigure their modules to morph into the optimal form for the task at hand at their current environment. For example, a modular robot going through various terrains could change its shape for optimal performance. If it were going to a relatively smooth path, it could make itself into a wheel or a ball to move quickly using minimal energy. However, once it encountered uneven rocky terrain, obstacles, or even steps, the robot could form legs to climb over barriers. It could even form a snake-like morphology to slither through small spaces, particularly useful in emergency situations. And this is not possible with conventional robots since they can assume only one form. And high robustness. Modular robots are also more robust than their conventional counterparts. No individual module is critically important as each can be replaced relatively easily. If one module fails due to a hardware or software issue, the entire system does not break down. Since they are reconfigurable, modular systems can compensate for damage by reconfiguring, or even by replacing the part autonomously if they have access to additional units from nearby robots. Or they and the cost factor it costs less as modular units are potentially cheaper than conventional robots. A relatively small number of modules accomplishing many difficult tasks, the cost of each module can be driven down through economies of scale and mass production. This is especially the case with homogeneous systems. Even heterogeneous systems may cost less than the conventional systems because only one robot with different modules is needed rather than multiple robots. And the disadvantages, the very things that make modular self-reconfigurable robots unique and potentially powerful, the modularity and self-reconfigurability, make them especially difficult to produce. With all the added degrees of freedom, dimensions in which motion can be achieved, such as forward, backwards, transplantation or rotation, mechanical and control complexity skyrockets. One inherent disadvantage of modular robots is that they will be inferior to specialized robots at each task compete with them. And consequently, the advantage of modular robotics is only apparent when considering multiple tasks that would normally require a set of different fixed morphology robots, or when the nature of tasks cannot be fully determined before the rules are deployed. And that that's it from my part. And
That's all
next,
about your part. Okay, good.
yes, yes.
Rahul.
Next will be
Myself, sir.
Rahul.
Myself, yeah. Rakshika, share the screen ID.
1 second. I don't have the full PPT. 1 second, just 1 minute. I'll can anyone send the complete? Okay, it's here. Few seconds, it's downloading.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Praveen Raj. Okay. Am I audible, sir? Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're audible.
Yes, go.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, friends. I'll myself Rahul there. So I'll be presenting the self reconfiguration process. So basically, self reconfiguration process is kind of transforming a modular robot from a different configuration from one configuration to the another one. So are also able to like self reconfiguring robots like change their own shape actually. Their own shape by rearranging their connectivity of their path in order to adapt to new circumstances like new to So they change their new circumstances so that they can perform their new task based upon their body process, all those, and they can recover from their damage as soon. And it is given there the self reconfiguration process is also a sequence of actions, like process of planning from such sequence of actions. Next slide. Yeah, Praveen. So there are some advantages of combining, like the you can see the pictures over here. The like cells, like us, my friend Pratik showed in the first introduction part. He converted that set of building blocks into a chair. So here also we can the chair can also be converted into different shapes as our requirement, as our required task over here. So the modular building blocks usually consists of some primary structures, acute unit, so that they can transform the mechanical forces and movements, electric power, communication throughout the robot from the starting to the end. So it's like we can increase the strength also. Like increasing strength, it means that the rigidity of a fixed or static structure, increasing the net or amount of force for raising it, lowering, pushing, or pulling another object also, or another part of the matrix, or any combination of these features. So it's kind of a very good thing. We'll be having two notions over here, the link and the joint. While the link perform the physical object or from one connection to the other, while the joint has the properties of the connections. I'll show the link and joint in the next slide, next pictures. Next slide, yeah. So you can see here, it's a very good picture over here. So you have a building blocks, a set of objects over here. Like you can call this a building cells. It's very small. It will be very like huge amount of cells will be there. It's some random picture over here which is getting converted into a chair. So this is what there are some set of algorithms, set of optimization process to perform this task, so that we can change it from one configuration to the another. And like while performing this one, we got a chair in the final step over here. So this was to perform one task. Let us take an example. It was sitting, we need a chair and we have performed this task. And right now we need a table also for a table as another task for it to keep some things. So we'll convert this chair into the performed table T. So what we'll do here is that it's very simple. The chair part which we lay our backbone, that will be converted into a extra rectangle part, and the two legs over there will be moved to the extreme things. So this is what we can transform the things into this. So the self-reconfiguring robots are one hand concerned with algorithms and optimization aspects, but there is also another part of it. We deal with the kinematic constraints of modules, because like when we move from one configuration to another, there are so many kinematic constraints over there. So self-reconfiguring robots doesn't deal with the software and the hardware challenges, but it also has a difficult problem with that as a general solution. But we have not arrived to such a solution for it. Next slide, yeah. So how does we represent self-reconfiguring robot? So we can this A part, the A and B. So we have A part. I have named as 1, 2, 3 all. You can see that one is a set of a block, or one set of block. One set of block, in a sense there will be two pair, like one part is being joined with the other, and that will be one pair, and one is one pair, two is another pair, and third is the third pair. So this is kind of I have given an example over here. This kind of a branch which is being configured, and while representing, because it's a very simple one, we can represent in the like I'll have represent the B block 1, 2, 3, how it has been linked. So it's very easy for us to understand. So algorithms have been developed for handling thousands of units. Here we have only 8 units or 8 pairs, but we have an algorithm which have been developed for handling thousands of units in which deal with the ideal conditions. Challenges to this scalability remain in both low-level control and high-level planning to overcome realistic constraints. So here we don't have such constraints, but algorithms have sent to develop to overcome the realistic constraint as well. So here we can change this into a legged robot, to a snake robot, and then to a rolling robot. So that's the beauty of that self reconfiguring robot as well. So due to the fact the branching factor of the configuration graph increases exponentially with increased number of modules. Here we have 8 modules or 8 type of connections over here. The space complexity of search space is intractable. So when the units get increased, the tracking will be difficult for us. Here it's simple, so that we can track 1, 2, 3 how it's been joined. You can observe here the 5th link is being joined to the 6th, and 7th to the 8th, and the 2 is being connected to the 1 and the 3 both in both the way. So it's, but when we move on to the higher level or high level control planning, so then it's become difficult to track it. But when it's been a simple one, it's easy for us. The next one, yeah, next slide. So there is another way, like we can represent the the module or the configuration, the how it's been linked over here. So we have an incidence matrix over here. And I did not get the AIM, but I can explain you the IM, like incident matrix. So incident matrix is simple, like n into m matrix, where n represents the row represents the number of modules, like how many the vertices over there within the body, and m represents the number of joints among the modules. So the common phases, like the connections, as I told you before, the n and m what it represents. We have an IAJ which has only 2 values, 0 or the 1. So the connections, like AM represents the absence or the existence of a connection between link I and joint J. Like I will be the link and join will be represented as J. So yeah, can you move to the previous slide? I can explain with that. Yeah. So you can see here 1 and 2 is being joined. So 1 has only one connection to it, and 2 has connection between 2 as well as 1. Move to the next slide. Yeah, see, you can see here the link 1 and the joint 1. It is being denoted 1 as I have taken the value as 1, and rest all 0.
Yes, we are in which slide, Rahul?
Sir, I'm in the incident matrix, but the matrix which I'm showing here is the example of the previous configuration. This is the simple one. Like I'm explaining with that, because you will get, if I explain with this, you will not be able to get it. You will not be able to imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. You can see here the second row column 1 1 1 and rest all 0. Here 1 1 1 represents that link the module 2 is being joined to the link 1 as well as the link 3 also. And the third row you can see join 3, J3 has been J3 and L3 has been filled with 1 and rest all 0, because the module module or the link third part is being connected only with the 2. It has only one connections, that's all, and rest all it's not been connected at all. We can, like, one link can be connected with many, with until unless it doesn't have any kinematic constraints, one link can be connected with many, like 7 8,000 all, but we should be take care of all the constraints as well. Yeah, next slide please. You can look into it. So yes, there are many solutions as well. We have solution based upon the abstraction one and the solution for that also, and that has been classified as
aware about AIM.
AI.
Yeah, in the past slide.
Hello.
In the past slide, you have shown one matrix called AIM. Are you aware?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've heard about it, sir. Like AIM is the assembly incident matrix.
Yes, go back. Yes, soon you are going to read a subject called finite element analysis. In that you will definitely you will see like this type of matrix, which will be a assembly matrix. What you are going to do, you are going to discretize the entire structure into finite elements, and then once the every property were obtained, then at the end you will assemble those finite element matrix into get the assembled matrix. That seems like a matrix.
Okay, so like when I gone through the assembly incident matrix, they were telling that it's the values which has been filled in the matrix, it's based upon the port number. The modular robotics have some isomorphic configuration. Like we look at from one angle, it's been a different configuration. We move on to the another angle, it seems to be different. So from how many different configuration we get from a single module, that's called some port number. I didn't get that actually, so I thought I could be explaining a wrong concept, so I did not explain it, but I got the incident matrix.
Fine,
So
go.
here AM is the number which is the port number. I did not get. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So there are like four. It has been categorized into four: the control-based, agent-based, bio-inspired, and the search-based. And these four types will be explained by the next my team members, the ways, the aspects of it, and the solution methods for these four types. And there is small concept which has been introduced by the Harry 1967 was the number of different configuration that can be made, that is called AN, is the number 3.6 power n, the number of arrangements of polygon cells. Here n is the square shaped cells. As I have shown you before, the how it's been, the small square shaped cells has been changed, converted into a whole chair. That how many cells have been used for it to for its configuration, that will be put into the value. You'll get the number of different configuration which can be made with this particular amount of square shaped cells. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So I got the advantage of this self reconfiguration robot also, but it has both the economical advantage and the functional advantage. I can say the economical is that one single configuration can be made use of multiple tasks or multiple work. So that will reduce the cost of various cost plus space for construction of different robots, because the one single robot can be made into different configuration and perform different tasks. And it has the functional advantage because it's reduce the human work. It can replace the autonomously, and it is actually a self repairing thing. We can actually find the small cell which has been damaged and we can replace it. It's that easy also. So it has the functional advantage and economical advantage. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Like I have the last leg, okay, I will explain it. Hardware design challenges also, because we have seen the advantages of all the self reprocessing reconfiguration robots. There is also some hardware design challenges which has been faced. There are some limiting strength, precision, and field robustness also, both in the mechanical and the electrical way, because it has some kinematic configuration also in that, limits to the motor power, motor precision, and energetic efficiency of units also. It has been hardware and software designs are designed to make the software problem easier, but self reconfiguration system have tightly coupled hardware and software than any other existing system. You can see, because it's having that much amount of units in it to build such one single configuration. It has hardware and tightly hardware and software problems in it. Okay, thank you. Like next, Ritik Malik will be present in the next concepts of all the reconfiguration robots also. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Right now I'm sharing my screen. Is the screen visible? Is the screen visible?
Yeah,
Yes, so right now I have the control-based approach in which tackles the SRP and from the control theory perspective, and it also have the self-recognition, which is as a result of the local and the distributed acts of controllers. So a direct correspondence can be established between the elements which have been there in SRP and those of the conventional control system, and through the mapping of reconfiguration actions. So these can be put into input and the consecutive configurations to the output, and the goal. Sir, you are not audible, sir. Hello?
Manik,
Yes, sir.
what happened?
Nothing, sir. I thought that you asked something. Okay, so I will continue. So hence these elements are necessary for to be categorized into any control-based approach. In the control-based approach, the role of abstraction methods, which I'll be talking later, those are used to describe the goal configuration for the controller. And the role of the solution method, which I will describe after abstraction method, will be to develop the mechanism for selecting suitable actions to transform a modular robot into its goal. So here are the abstraction methods. So in the abstraction method, it constitutes techniques that facilitate the presentation of the goal configuration, either implicitly or explicitly for each module. And so the most straightforward technique is to provide each module with the common knowledge about the geometrical characteristics of the goal. So the different techniques which have been developed so far are coordinates map. Coordinate maps. So in coordinate maps, the workplace D is in the shape of 2D or in a 3D grid, where the coordinates of each module in the goal configuration are explicitly specified and stored, and therefore it does not consume large amount of memory for each module in each module. And the second one is the connection information. So in this, in order to reduce the volume of the stored data, the connection information technique is proposed. So just to keep the types of neighborhood connections on each connection port at goal configuration. Although this technique reduces the required memory, but it does not impose localization capabilities on the modules, and it cannot categorize the goal configuration completely. It is likely to end up configurations that, despite matching with the connectors information, it do not expose the same geometrical properties of the original goal configuration. The third one is the volume approximation. This method describes the goal configuration as the geometrical expression and requires localization capabilities of the module. So the volume approximation describes the volume of the goal configuration by the boxes of the same size or the boxes of the different size, called overlapping bricks that can overlap over each other to represent complex geometries. So the accuracy of the approximation is affected by the two parameters, mainly the two parameters, which are the size and the number of modules. So the more module, which is the boxes, with the smaller sizes are available, the finer approximation of the goal geometry can be achieved. The fourth one is the surface approximation. It can also achieve the geometrically described by the, it can achieve the goal configuration by describing the exterior surface where its boundary faces partition the space into inner and outer subspaces. So this method is similar to what we have done in the, in this module, it is equipped by the capability of detecting whether it is located inside, outside, or at the boundary of the approximated volume. Now we are moving on to the solution method. So the different type of solution methods which are available are the random action, predefined rules, self-evolving controllers, gradient based, and the fifth one is the distributed planning. So I will speak one line about everyone. So the random action, it is the simplest, but it is the least efficient control method, and it is used to reconfiguration actions at random, where in each step the controller hopes to reach the goal position by chance. So the performance of the policy is not predictable and obviously has no guarantee to converge to the goal configuration. So the next one is the predefined rules. This alternative control-based method encodes the human experience and the knowledge about the appropriate actions into different situations in the form of if-then rules. So the precondition of if clause of rules are usually based on the local configurations of the modules. And the third one is the self-evolving controllers. This method aims to evolve suitable controllers for on-hand tasks either automatically or semi-automatically while reducing the need for pre-designed controllers and a prior information about the environment. The fourth one is the gradient based. So a control policy could also be as simple as following a gradient that guides a module to a position in the goal configuration, thereby the complexity of the reconfiguration is mostly incorporated into the process which generates the gradients rather than controllers. So in the gradient-based system, some modules or cells of the lattice grid become a source or the module and play the role of a seed. And the fifth one is the distributed planning. So in this method, it is similar to gradient-based planning, but a path is searched from a seed, which is the target position of the goal configuration, to a module, to a mobile module. Now we are here to analyze the control-based methods. The control-based methods of reconfiguration must be implemented with some considerations, which are the main issue of generating controllers is their convergence to the goal configuration, and they are usually developed based on local interactions and communication between the modules. The second is the robustness of the robustness deals with the capability of the controller in preserving the system functionality. The third one is the adaptability. So it maintains the controller's capability in recovering the functionality of the system once it is lost, and it usually is defined in terms of a period, in a time period t, within which the control functionality is restored. And the control-based methods are mostly applicable to goal configurations that are defined subjectively based on their functionalities. The control-based methods are generally also decided upon into new actions based on the local communications. Sir, I am not able to speak now, and this is my presentation. Now I hand over the presentation to Sai Sandhya.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Ritik, can you please share your screen name? Yeah, go to next slide. Hello guys, this is Sai Sandhya. In this session, we will be looking at agent-based approach and self-reconfiguration methods. Yes, next slide. So yeah, what do we do in agent-based approach? Agent-based approach is where agents can migrate between different hosts while their codes and data are kept intact. Agents are known as autonomous rational entities which observe their surroundings through sensors and act in it using actuators. This agent-based approach are used in multi-agent and swarm robot coordination to convert them into self-reconfigurable robots. Next slide. Oh. I can't able to see your screen. So we
Is it
have,
visible now?
yeah. So we have two methods for agent-based approach, one being abstraction and the other being solution methods. First one, we'll see about abstraction method module. The special purpose abstraction models, which are developed for abstracting properties of individual modules, are called abstraction modules. Individual modules include motion constraint and numerous intramodule kinetic coupling. Yeah, the next slide, please. The next up, we have solution methods. So here there are some of the algorithms or methods we use for agent-based approach. We have cellular automata, Markov decision process, game theory, leader follow, and reconfigurable solver. I'll explain each one by one. So first one, we have cellular automata. It was introduced by von Neumann. They are finite state machines that decide upon their next state based on both their current state and state of neighboring machines. This CA process have been extensively used for path planning in robotics. The second one is Markov decision process. MDP is short formed as MDP. It's another method used where the next state of the machine is determined by the current state. The third one is reinforcement learning. In reinforcement learning, agents learn what action to take in various states of the system via trials and reward signals. These methods, the RL methods, are widely used in machine learning algorithms. The next we have game theory. Game theory is the study of independent decision makers. It's widely used in areas of multi-agent and swarm robot systems. Fifth one is leader follower. We mostly use the leader follower method in cooperative multi-agent systems and for formation control. In this method, an agent called the leader marches towards goals and other agents follow it. Sixth one is reconfigurable software. This method involves the sharing of modules computational resources to spread computing system over cluster of modules. And these are the brief points about each of the solution methods. And that's about it. My friend Prithvi will take over now.
Hey guys, I'm here to brief you about the bio-inspired approaches for self-reconfiguration methods. So basically, all this time we have been seeing about the reconfigurational robots. So yeah, what better source is there other than nature to get such an idea for reconfiguration? So this is very useful because developing controllers and all those have many other complications, but this has relatively lower configurations. So in this one, I'll be talking about morphology and all other ideas from nature. So yeah, the abstraction methods for this bio-inspired reconfigure methods include like the genome data structure. So as you can see, these algorithms have like store everything in the data structures, like how data is stored in our genes. The abstraction method was proposed to store configurational information of self-reconfigurable robotic systems to make it applicable to the evolutionary computation operations of selection, mutation, and inheritance. So basically, they store like the past, present, and the future, so they can basically evolve or something like that. And yeah, morphogen concentration. So morphogen is actually it's actually another biological term. I'm not much aware of it, but then that's a technique for abstractly describing target shape information. So basically, it stores all the shape information. So before we have seen that like the robots evolving into a chair or a table or something. So for that, we can use this like morphogen concentration. And yeah, here are some other solutions in the bio-inspired methods. So EVO-DEVO is actually evolution and development. So yeah, basically development is just going from the like the starting stage to the ending stage, egg to phenotype in biological terms. Evolution is from going from phenotype to mutation and repeating the process. Evolution and development, EVO-DEVO is actually a good algorithm to implement. It takes care of both evolution and development. So virtual embryogenesis, VE method, it's a very popular method nowadays as this uses artificial evolution to evolve processes which manage assembly of mobile units such that regenerative abilities are exhibited. So yeah, so basically they evolve with regenerative abilities. In an experiment, the two rows of T-shaped robotic organism which had not been evolved for regeneration were removed, but the organism started to regrow from the central axis. So basically, it's like regrowing of limbs of animals or something like that. And then here is the morphogenic robots which we have seen beforehand. Like the robots can evolve from snake shaped and all those. So as you've already seen this, I don't need to brief you much about it. But these interactions form a complex regulation network called gene regularity network, GRN. So this is the basic algorithm behind it. And this is another solution method like Fisharam robotics. Fisharam is actually a mass of protoplasm basically. Like what the protoplasm does is it's a slime mold. If you research in it, you can get to know that slime mold is actually called as memory without a brain. So it actually does not have the sixth sense like us, but it has the few cells it has can enable it to have a memory. So basically in this picture, what we are seeing here is it's kind of avoids light and goes to the places where light is not there. So basically for such implementation in robots, we can use plasmodium cells. Plasmodium, like an example of plasmodium cell is Fisharam polycephalum. It inhabits shady, cool, moist areas, and it exhibits transportation, navigation, and complex behavior with very small number of cells. So it's very useful in various robotic implementations. And if we analyze it, the robustness and adaptability issues have roots in local and distributed nature of algorithms. So it's not very, very efficient, but they have their own downfalls. Here are the weaknesses of them. In virtual embryogenesis method, significant performance drop due to embodiment of agents when implemented on real robots. So it's a little bit tough to implement on real robots. And then in protoplasmic streaming and Fisharam robotics, mechatronic systems using these methods suffer from lack of reproduction ability. So basically, they are not physically possible to reproduce as I mentioned earlier. But with further developments, it is believed that they can reproduce. So yeah, limitations in these methods, like the scientist name is Mikkel, has a vision of artificial life, life, as the ultimate goal of all these bio-inspired robotic systems. So with these, he thought that humans and robots could actually exist side by side, as the robots can also be implemented with bio-inspired methods. And then, for example, the limitations include intra-agent forces and collisions among modules. So those are few problems, and then the problems can be overcome by adapting bio-inspired mechanisms and by enhancing mechanics. Like the existing level of mechanics in robots is not sufficient to implement all these methods, and then we can incorporate mechanical intelligence into the hardware of robots in order to adverse effects of physical embodiment. So by doing this, we can overcome all the problems. So that's it from my side. So the next guy will take over. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you can proceed.
I'm Sibirajan. I will be talking about the flow methods used in modular robotics. Modular robots can mimic the flow of fluids, usually through concurrent recognition of modules, similar to the way that split water traverses a terrain toward a sink. Lattice-based modules have the ability to move on the surface of their neighbors along any direction relative to the MRS structure, while the connectedness of the whole body is preserved. Therefore, inspired from the way fluids run toward a sink, such modular robots can relocate through simulating this behavior. In the flow, modules can change their morphology in conformance with the obstacles they meet during locomotion, just like fluids conforming to the stream bed. This way of locomotion is called water flow motion, as it simulates the flow of water on the ground, in which modules assume the shape of their underlying terrain while moving forward. And next slide. Next slide. While in water flow motion, flow is planned at the level of modules in cluster flow. It is planned for a block of modules. In these blocks of modules, trace a desired trajectory such that, for instance, the tail of a cluster translates on the structure to reach the front of the cluster and create a UAD as shown in the figure. The flow operation is realized through changes in the morphology of the modular robot. Thus, it can inherently be modeled as an SRP and solved. However, a subtle point is that consecutive target configurations in flow are defined subjectively, that is, they are defined to attain a desired functionality rather than an explicit geometrically defined shape. Hence, the solution methods of the flow operation slightly vary from the SRP solution methods. Besides, since the flow operation is generally implemented through distributed interactions of modules, it is necessary to adopt synchronization methods to guarantee that the whole cluster of modules remains connected while flowing and modules are sufficiently coordinated such that overcrowding situations are avoided. Next slide. There are 4 control methods. They are cellular automata, distributed planning, hierarchical planning, and reinforcement learning. In cellular automata, the local nature of transition rules in cellular automata, which is CA, fits well with the flow locomotion, where modules should decide on their next state according to their local state, local configurations of surrounding modules, and limited sensory data about the environment, like presence of obstacles. Local rule sets are based only on the local configuration around a particular module and consist of 5 or 8 rules for water flow in obstacle-free and obstacle-filled environments respectively. The rules exhibit a behavior similar to a tank tread, by which modules move and turn from the back of module cluster over its top and eventually place at the front, either on the ground or on another module. Next slide. Distributed. It is possible to fulfill the flow operation by parallel execution of locomotion paths planned per each individual module. For instance, the Pacman algorithm by Butler and Russ can be utilized for generating surface moving systems and is applicable to unit compressible systems like the crystalline module, in which paths of module are planned in parallel using the depth first search strategy, and path conflicts are resolved in the actuation phase to let modules flow among obstacles or even climb up them. Hierarchical planning. Flow can be considered as two-level planning problem. At the higher level, gross locomotion of the modular robot body is planned, and at the lower level, detailed local movements of modules, coordination of their actions, and conflict resolution issues are addressed. For example, a centralized two-layer planning method where the upper layer plans the overall cluster motion along a desired trajectory and the lower layer locally determines low-level module motions by means of a database of if-then rules. As a result, the block of modules from the tail is transferred toward a given heading direction. The lower layer checks whether the paths found by the global planner are valid for each module in the block by repeatedly applying rules, which include local motion sequence and are defined according to the initial local configuration. Next slide. Reinforcement learning, which is called the RL method. The RL method can also be utilized for exhibiting flow-like motions. It is implemented on a 2D lattice modular robot with a learning objective of displacing the center of mass towards a particular direction. It is also employed on a 2D lattice-based modular system and set the learning objective to move modules in presence of obstacles such that the robot's center of mass is translated toward a given direction while the connectivity of modules is preserved. Consequently, each action that moves the center of mass towards the desired direction gains a reward. The problem mass model does partially observe MDP, since each module could identify the presence of obstacles or modules in its 8 immediate neighbors. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Prithvi, next slide. I'm going to talk about the self-assembly. Next slide. Self-assembly operation is a means for fulfilling shape-forming function in which modules aggregate spontaneously to form a final formation or final configuration. It enables modular robots to transform into desired morphologies and concerns motion planning of several dispersed and initially detached modules which move freely in the environment and can establish multiple bilateral connections to other modules in such a way that coherent configuration is built up in the end. It can be used in forming final configurations for both self-actuated modular robot and for modules that lack innate actuation ability. Self-repairing can also be considered as an extension to self-assembly. Next slide shows classification, which contains according to energy. It is classified into static and dynamic. Static, no dissipation of energy and system remains at global and local equilibrium. Dynamic, dissipation of energy places central role in formation of structures and patterns between components. According to final structure, templated final structure determined by means of interactions between self-assembly components and environment features. Biological final structure is characterized by variety and complexity of function it produces. Next slide shows 5 characteristics for success of self-assembly. Those are components, interactions, reversibility, environment, and agitation. Next slide shows the challenges faced by a self-assembly process, which contains 4: nature of function, fabrication of components, interaction between components, and connection between components. Next slide shows control methods. It is crucial to devise methods that control the interactions between modules according to the state of modules and towards the final configuration so that the likelihood of reaching assembly yields is maximized. The methods include stimulated chemical kinetics, graph grammar, finite state machines, FSM, cellular automata, gene regularity network, GRN. Next up, Praveen will continue.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak about the synchronization methods. As a result, by considering meta modules as groups, flow motion is realized in a distributed manner by means of a hierarchical control structure, in which the lower level controls the motion of meta modules via coordinating their constituting modules, while the higher level is responsible for the distributed control of meta modules. Basically, there are two types of synchronization methods. One is locking, and the another one is messaging. Okay. So locking, the controllers must also care about the arrangement of modules within the robot, a structure in order to prevent modules from taking actions that may lead to collisions. The aim of locking mechanism is to synchronize access of modules to the free space in the same way. Critical sections. Handle simultaneous access to a shared resource in concurrent programming. The analysis of I missed about the messaging part. The messaging part. The modules can coordinate their motions through passing messages between themselves. For example, messaging can be used to assure that the destination of a module is not occupied by another module, and if so, to ask the blocking module to leave that location. However, such a coordination scheme requires the messages to be exchanged between all modules of MRS, which not only is bandwidth intensive but also needs a centralized controller for coordination. Scientists like Murata and Kurokawa introduced grouping of modules as an approach for resolving communication and coordination problems as locally as possible. In that method, modules are grouped together and communication paths between two adjacent groups are determined automatically. A module aiming to occupy a particular location within an adjacent group verifies the vacancy of its destination through messages exchanged at the group level. Next slide, please. Next slide, Prithvi.
Yes, just a minute, Praveen.
Yes.
Do you have the subsequent class 120? Do you have classes, Praveen?
No, sir.
Concerning other class?
I'm not sure about A section, sir.
Anyone, please?
So almost everyone from A section have completed, so there is only one more guy left.
Yes, those who want to leave the session, you can leave the session. Since if you want to learn, you stay. And if you we have other portal too, that is YouTube. Via YouTube also you can learn these contents. Those who want to leave the session, you can leave the session. But Praveen, you continue.
Okay.
And with the continuation of Praveen, Rahul, 88 number Rahul will continue. Yes, go ahead, Praveen.
And next thing is analysis of flow methods. Inspired from the fluid flow metaphor, modules in the flow operation are deemed as liquid particles that slide on the surface of each other while conforming to the shape of the environment and obstacles. A challenge in this flow methods is to produce simultaneous motions of modules while it is guaranteed that there is no chance for deadlock conditions, collision between modules, and risk of fragmentation in the modular robot. Among the three main control methods of motion through flow, the cellular automata and distributed planning methods realize flow through simultaneously motions of modules, while flow through the global flow planar in the hierarchical planning method is achieved by serial movements of modules. Next slide, please. On the other hand, it is crucial for flow methods to consider real-world conditions so that the effects of external forces such as weight, friction, and inertia are considered for maintaining the balance and stability of intermediate configurations during the operation. This issue can be addressed in cellular automata by devising transition rules that take such external forces into account. Now I'll proceed with Rahul.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Hello and a very good afternoon, everyone. This is Rahul, and I am going to tell about some remaining operation of module system. As you already familiar with self-configuration, gate flow, and
Yes,
self-assembly
just a
operation
minute,
earlier.
Rahul.
Yes.
Prithvi, CV, thank you for your appreciation. Prithvi, CV Rajan, yes, yes. Thank you for your appreciation. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sir, fine. As you already familiar with self-configuration, gate flow, and self-assembly operation earlier, and now we are going to know about some other operation like self-dissembling, grasping, and self-adaptation, and other operation, which is addressed relatively less than all above, but they are in high demand because of their capability like sensing, actuation, and communication, and we cannot neglect their current hardware and software specification of their modular robotic system. So next slide, please. Pratik. Hello.
Let me next slide.
So self-dissembling is basically a process of reaching a final goal configuration via detaching some extra modules from a unified initial configuration, and it is quite similar to sculpting process. Though the self-dissembling operation, a desired shape is produced after removing unnecessary modules from a closed packed configuration such as cubic block modules, and it's having advantage than self-assembling operation, like disconnection is comparatively easier than establishing a connection. And also self-dissembling requires simple actuation mechanism in module system, and in self-assembling you making a connection which requires a module to seek and align with a connection part on another module, while in dissembling you just need to detach with unnecessary connection using a simple module. So next slide. Okay, so here self-dissembling method of MICHE rule modules based on local communication between modules through 5 steps. First is neighbor discovery, which means modules are added to an initial assembly one by one, and upon insertion each module immediately commits to find its neighboring modules and initiate magnetic connection to themselves that a solid initial block is formed. And next is localization, which means each module determines its coordinate in the assembly and send its location data to a host computer where a 3D module of the initial configuration is displayed. Third is sculpting, which is like either like host computer and operator virtually sculpts the block into the desired configuration and sends back the shape information to the system. Fourth is shape distribution, which means an inclusion message is sent to a single root module, which then gets propagated among modules in the system, telling them whether to remain or leave the system. Fifth and last is dissembling. Like any module that is located off the grid of final configuration disconnect itself from the neighbor and is ultimately repelled from the system. Change the slide, please. Hit 3. Self-adaptation. The purpose of self-adaptation is basically to utilize robot and recovery system functionality once a equilibrium situation is lost. It is applicable in constructing environmentally adaptive structures such as self-balancing tables, adaptive columns to withstand external force, and terrain adaptive bridges. Self-adaptation utilize reconfigurability of modular robot in constructing structure that reconfigure themselves in response to environmental change, so that a particular function such as manipulation, supporting, or balance is achieved. The realization of this operation is convenient for touch-based modules, as they can control the length of the linear actuator precisely and hence adapt the structure of modular robot to environmental conditions. A challenge in self-adaptation is to reach a global perception of the current MRS, which states based on local and limited sensing of individual modules nearly in real time. This problem is mainly addressed by algorithm that propagate sensory data among a module and then utilize these data for deciding upon the actuation feedbacks. Change the slide, Prithvi. Grasping. Grasping basically to hold the object with the help of a gripper. With the help of a module which is formed by arrangement of module, or you can simply say like a robot can utilize for developing versatile grippers able to grasp object with unknown size or shapes. That's the basic meaning of grasping, and that's all from my side. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Everything is fine, but the time you have taken around 30 minutes more than the scheduled time. Anyway, it is fine. Tomorrow we'll meet around 12:30. I request the 10th batch to continue with special application of robotics. Tomorrow, do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, we'll wind up here. Tomorrow we will continue during 12:30. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.